Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we're going to be talking about which of the 10 available tier 3able characters you should use for the tier 3 selector that we are going to be getting at the end of the month with the 5-year anniversary. I've already gotten a ton of questions about this, so I wanted to make a top 10 list. There are 10 of these characters, and we can go from 1 to 10 and just explain them all and give my reasoning for why they're, first place, second place, third place, so on and so forth. Now, keep in mind, this list will change depending on how many tier 3s that you have, of course, but this list assumes that you don't have any, starting off with number 1 and going down just based on power level, based on usefulness, based on how easy it is to play them. Of course, this list is just my opinion, so you don't have to take it that seriously. And finally, this list assumes that you have the latest uniform for each of these characters. So if you have prior uniforms for the characters, it will dock them some points. For example, if you have Captain America's newest uniform, the Hydra Supreme, and you don't have any uniform for Cyclops, well, Cyclops kind of sucks at tier 3 without his Phoenix 5 uniform, whereas Captain America is really good at tier 3, whether he has his endgame uniform or his Hydra cap. So it really does matter which uniforms you have. I cannot get into the details of every single character with every single uniform because Cap has 1,000 uniforms, and so on and so forth. So we're just going to assume that they have their latest uniforms. We are also going to be making some assumptions about the future of these characters. So that is why some characters are above others, and I'll get into that as we explain it. Also, if you guys are wondering who I am going to be using my ticket on, as you can see, out of this list of 10 available characters, there are 3 blast, 3 speed, 2 combat, and 2 universal. There's actually only 1 combat if you consider Captain America a blast type from his uniform, but remember, even when a uniform changes a character's type, it never changes the cost. So even though I equip Captain America's blast uniform, he is always going to take combat type enhancement kits to upgrade his type enhancement. He is also going to take combat books. So technically, I would count that as a combat character and not a blast character. And so if you're wondering which one of these characters I'm going to use my tier 3 ticket on because I have Black Panther and SpiderMan available, I'm probably going to let my tier 3 ticket expire if the devs do not let us know that the ticket will give you a substantial amount of resources if you use it on an existing character. If the devs are going to give us a substantial compensation, like, thousands of bios or whatever, or maybe half of what you would get, half of what you would spend for tier 3ing one of these characters, then I'll probably use it on one of these existing characters and just save the materials. If they're just going to give 512 bios, which is my guess, then I'm just going to let the ticket expire as a form of hilarious protest. So without further ado, let's start it off. We're going to start off at number 1. We're not going to go 10 to 1. We're going to go 1 to 10 because you already know who's at number 10. So at number 1, we have Sharon Rogers. It's pretty straightforward. One of the best characters in the game. Easy choice here for number 1. However, I will say this, as it goes for, and this goes for all characters on the list. If you have Sharon Rogers at tier 2 and you have 10 blast books and you have her at level 70 and you have her at gear 25, you probably shouldn't use the tier 3 selector on her, because presumably you can take a level 60 character to tier 3 or a tier 1 level 5 character, whatever, 2-star character. Presumably the character doesn't need to be set up already. So because of that, you really need to evaluate where you are. The game gives you a Sharon Rogers level 60 tier 2 automatically once you complete the Shield Academy, and most players end up investing in Sharon Rogers, and she might even be the first character that they bring up to level 70. So I would caution against using this ticket on a character that's almost ready to tier 3. Ultimately it's your choice. You can do whatever you want with the ticket, but if you want to get maximum efficiency out of it and you had a level 70 gear 25 Sharon, I would say tier 3 her the normal way and use the ticket on some of these other characters. But yeah, outside of that, there's really not much to explain. Sharon Rogers is like one of the best tier 3s. She's so high DPS, very easy to use, fun to play, self-healing with a new uni. She's just amazing, and they're always going to give her a uniform. Every single year, they're going to go back and milk that, just like they do for all of their other original characters. So coming in at number 2, we actually have Captain Marvel. I actually think Captain Marvel's a little bit better than Captain America, mainly because she only needs this 1 uniform. Now, Cap, you could argue that he needs 2 uniforms. He needs Endgame as a hero, as a combat hero, and then he needs Hydra Cap for the Striker as a blast villain. So she is technically a little bit cheaper than Cap, and she's very, very good, especially if you are a new player, because she's going to be very good for you in PvP, whereas Captain America, not as good. Captain Marvel is still very consistent in PvP, and now with the rise of Nimrod, Captain Marvel is better than ever because she is a very good counter to Nimrod. She can basically just one-shot him with her 4th skill. So I think she is an excellent choice, and it's very important for newer players to get a leg up on PvP, because if you don't think PvP is a nightmare for new players, you have not, experienced the new player nightmare recently. Once you get past the first few bots in PvP and timeline battle, you'll be facing off against tier 3 Thanoses, tier 3 Jean Greys. They're everywhere. They're all the way down in bronze. Some people don't play timeline battle at all, surprisingly, because the rewards are so amazing, right? But even though the rewards are shit, it's important to get something rather than nothing. So that's why I think Captain Marvel is the second best choice. You can, instead of getting, 80 crystals a week, you could get 100 or 120. That's only 20 or 40 crystals a week, but that will add up over time. Coming in at number 3, we have Captain America. He's so good, so flexible. Again, you have to weigh where the character is. Keep in mind, he's a half-cost tier 2. So that, I think maybe they're all half-cost tier 2s besides Cyclops. But anyways, if you don't have him built up, getting him tier 3 is not going to be a bad decision at all. You definitely need to invest in either the endgame or Hydra Supreme uniform. Now, this is the best uniform in the game for striking, along with Hydra with Weapon Hex. This is the 1-2 punch combo. So, he does gain a little bit more value if you have Weapon Hex already, but keep in mind you don't need to tier 3 him if you're only using him as a striker. So if you only use Captain America as a striker now and you're not going to actually play with Captain America, then you don't necessarily have to tier 3 him. He's also the tier 3 on this list with the hardest to use tier 3 ability, so that does count for something. Coming in at number 4, this one's probably going to be a bit of a debate for some people. Some people are not going to agree with me here, but I think Cyclops is probably the fourth best tier 3 here. And the reason for that being is he's flexible as a hero and a villain. He's a support and a leadership and a DPS, so that's always nice. And he's just good raw damage. He can solo a lot of content without all defense down because he has decent raw damage. Obviously, he can't go as high as some of the other characters like Sharon Rogers, but he doesn't rely on all defense down. So future content that doesn't let you use all defense down will make Cyclops better. And I really like the fact that he is a villain that can transform back into a hero, and he'll eventually get a uniform again in the future that turns him back into a hero, and then you might see an even larger upgrade from that. But he's got self-healing. He's really easy to use, easy to play, and yeah, I just think it's a no-brainer. And also he's harder to farm than any of the other characters because you can only get 10 bios a day, so building him to tier 2 can be a bit of a pain in the butt. Now, it's not expensive. None of the characters on this list are expensive, but you have to take that into consideration, whereas, Captain America, you can just go into the support shop and just bang out tons of Rift tokens to get thousands of bios instantaneously. Coming in at number 5, this is where we're going to see a little bit more disagreement and controversy. I put Thor. Now, I don't know if Thor is better than number 6, but here's the thing. Thor is universal, which is very premium. There's so few universal tier 3s. It's a joke. And he's due. Thor is due for an upgrade. I don't think the devs are going to wait until Thor Love and Thunder to give this guy another uniform. They have shown a strong willingness to milk the same characters, the same popular characters, over and over and over for new uniforms. I'm talking, Captain America. I'm talking Sharon Rogers. I'm talking Jean Grey, Wolverine, etc. So it's no surprise. It would be no surprise to me if he gets another uniform between now and then. Not to mention the fact that most Marvel movies have been postponed due to the coronavirus stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a uniform to just jack him up War of the Realms style. So I would think that if you want to be a little bit more risky, I think this is a great tier 3 option for you. And, he's bound to get an upgrade sooner or later that could make him really, really strong. Coming in at number 6, we have Winter Soldier. I personally don't like Winter Soldier. That's why I made that noise. I wanted to put Winter Soldier lower on this list, but he's technically better than the rest of the characters. He's probably a little bit worse than SpiderMan for PvP, but he's better than SpiderMan for PvE content. Well, world boss content, let's put it that way. I think SpiderMan might be better than Winter Soldier for giant boss raid, but yeah, I can't prove that. Anywho, Winter Soldier is really hard to play, but like Thor, I am going to guess that he's going to be getting a uniform for Winter Soldier and Falcon. Probably also being postponed or at least delayed because they had to stop filming because social distancing, because COVID. But if he does get a Disney Plus uniform, that should bring him to the forefront. They want to sell that uniform. They're going to make him strong. He's not quite as popular as Thor in terms of like guaranteed to get a uniform, Captain America style, but he's not that far off either. At number 7, if you didn't catch it, I sort of hinted at it, Spider-Man. Spider-Man is one of the better characters on this list for PvP, especially Alliance Conquest if you really love that game mode. So if you really love Conquest and you really love PvP, you might put Spider-Man above Winter Soldier. You might even put him above Thor and maybe even above Cyclops, to be honest. Spider-Man is no joke in PvP. Whether he has... Actually, I think he needs the stealth suit, but maybe he can make it work with this one. But he needs one of the Far From Home uniforms. Unfortunately, Spider-Man is not that good for PvE content, but you can see some videos by players like Gazam. He's got a YouTube channel. He does a lot of Spider-Man content, and he has some cool clears with him. I believe it's Gazam. It might be Angry Chicken. Well, anyways, check them both out. They're both good. And you can talk to them on Discord as well, because they're there pretty often. So, with those 7 out of the way, let's get to number 8. A lot of you guys are probably getting really upset right now, but actually number 8 is Ant-Man. Yeah, I know. I know what you're thinking. Where's Iron Man? We'll talk about Iron Man soon. Ant-Man's number 8. Like Spider-Man, he's good for PvP, but he's not as good for PvE. I think he's a little bit worse than Spider-Man for PvP, and he's a little bit better than Spider-Man for PvE, but he's a lot worse in squad battle. Spider-Man's actually not bad in squad battle. Ant-Man is probably horrendous because his one AoE skill is his tier 3 skill. So I would imagine that if Ant-Man scores in squad battle, it's like under 500,000. He's probably garbage. So Ant-Man, yeah, unfortunately, unlike Spider-Man, Ant-Man is really not that popular. So the chances of him getting a uniform are way less than any of the other characters on this list. So yeah, it's dicey. If you're a huge fan of Ant-Man, definitely you could use this ticket on him. But I would say, for Ant-Man, Iron Man, and Black Panther, which are the last 3, if the ticket gives you a lot of tier 3 materials, consider just using the ticket on an existing character to get the materials. Ant-Man, he's like waning. He was better when we had fewer options to deal with Jean Grey, but since we've gotten Quicksilver, since Jean Grey's become universal, yada yada yada, we've gotten more ways to deal with her. She's still a pain in the ass, but Ant-Man is fast becoming kind of obsolete against Jean Grey because of CTPs of Greed and because we're just getting more consistent options against her in PvP. So, last 2 here. Coming in at number 9, we have Iron Man. Iron Man, he's good. He's a lot worse in PvP than anybody else that I've mentioned thus far. He's probably only second to like Black Panther and Cyclops in PvP, but he's good in PvE. He's good, and all defense down makes him better, and he can combo with weapon hex, yada yada yada. But I don't know. I think that Iron Man's value is the lowest that it can be, and it will only get lower. I don't see Iron Man getting another uniform. I think the devs really don't like Iron Man like Wolverine. I mean, we had to beg the devs to give Iron Man a rework for Endgame. Remember that? The snap? We had to beg them for that. And I think they only did it because they saw value in reworking characters like Captain America to sell that uniform. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But the other thing with Iron Man is, unlike Spider-Man and Ant-Man, there are a lot of really strong Blast Tier 3. Now, yeah, Deadpool's really strong. Yeah, Quicksilver's really strong. But Blast, like Jean Grey, Sharon Rogers, Professor X, Magneto, Scarlet Witch, there are so many super strong Blast Tier 3s that by the time you get down to Iron Man might be the worst Blast Tier 3 now. Think about that. So you don't really have a place for him on your roster, I guess is what I'm trying to say, which is why I put him at 9th. So I do have some reasoning for it. You might disagree with me, that's fine, but I just wanted to share that with you. And then, of course, coming in at number 10, Black Panther. Absolute joke of a character. They gave him a tier 3 without reworking him or giving him any uniform at all. He hasn't had a rework since 2 years ago when he got his movie uniform in 2018 before Infinity War. Yeah, it's been that long, people. It's actually more than 2 years ago. It's 2 years. It's like 25 or 26 months now that Black Panther has been this shitty. So there's no reason to tier 3 him. I mean, he can do some content, sure, but there's plenty of tier 2s. I mean, tier 2 Sabretooth completely obliterates Black Panther in content. So yeah, I would say the only reason why you should use your tier 3 ticket on Black Panther is if you love the character and you're banking on him getting a rework. I would not bank on that because, like I said, 26 months and counting, but anything can happen. Again, if the tier 3 ticket, if I was a regular player and not a YouTuber, and I got the tier 3 ticket and I had Spider-Man tier 3, I probably would just use it on Black Panther just to get it done and over with, especially because my Black Panther is not built up. But if my Black Panther was built up, I would just use the ticket on whatever it gave me. Or if the ticket gives good resources in return, just use the ticket on that and save it. You can always tier 3 him in the future when he gets a rework. So with that being said, let me know what you think of my list. If you have a different list, let me know what that would be. Thank you so much for watching. Please share this video with people that ask, because I know I'll still be bombarded with questions, and this video just explains everything. So yeah, share this video with people that are wondering who to tier 3 for the tier 3 ticket, the selector, whatever it's called. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.